So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you just one position of a mode that I like to use a lot, including guys like Jerry Garcia. That was another request. I'm putting a lot of answers into one video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a shape of the Mixolydian mode that I like to use a lot. And I'll explain it a little bit, but obviously a whole theory lesson is not going to fit into 10 minutes. But this is a nice little nugget of info that I think a lot of you will get something from. So enough of my yapping, let's zoom in and do it. Here we go. All right, something to keep in mind, especially if you're confused by modes or you don't know much about them, the progression is just as much the mode as the actual scale. So what I mean by that is all the modes are coming from a key, which is a group of chords. So if you see a chord progression and you know your music theory and you know your modes, when you see a chord progression, you can actually see what family or key it fits into, and then you know how to plug in your mode. But it takes some time to kind of get all that stuff down. Like I said, you can't do that in a 10-minute lesson. So what I'm going to do right now is just show you one little aspect of it. The progression I was playing was A, G, D, back to G. You know, pretty common set of chords together. And if you think of like a Grateful Dead kind of thing and you're listening to the feeling of this progression, it doesn't really sound, it sounds a little happier than something where I'd be playing the straight up A minor pentatonic scale. You can do it, but the atmosphere of that progression is a little happier sounding. So you could play the A major pentatonic instead. And the Mixolydian mode, like for instance the A Mixolydian mode, is all these notes of the A major pentatonic just without its half steps. There's just a few sets of half steps to add, and then now you're adding the extra colors that make it A Mixolydian instead of just the A major pentatonic scale. There's a lot of ways to approach it. The one I'm going to show you right now, though, so just to reiterate if you're already confused, we have a progression. It's A major, G, D, G back to A, G and D, G, A, okay? And so I say, hey, go for it. You take a solo or start improvising. Here's one thing you can do. First, we want to just plug in our root. So I saw that it was an A chord. So the root I'm going to show you to plug in is going to be the 12th fret of the A string. So that's where the A starts over on the octave. So that's how I'm plugging in. I'm plugging in by knowing my root. The other root is on the 14th fret of the G string. So that's what I'm plugging in. But then here's the shape, and you might have learned this shape as a different name. You might have seen this shape as what would be called Dorian, like E Dorian. But don't worry about any of that. Just know right now this is great over an A major-y kind of progression that still has a little edge to it. In other words, it's not a super happy progression, but then it's also not a certainly not a minor sounding progression. So we're going to plug this shape in. 12 to 14 on the A string. Okay? Then, and I'm going to show you some fingerings, but then we're going to do 11, 12, 14 on the D string. So far, that just sounds like the A major scale, and it is, but we're going to play one note that's not in the A major scale, and it's 11, 12, 14 on the G string. Twelve, 14, 11, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14. And now we do a finger change. We're going to get our index to the 12th fret of the B, and we're going to do 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 15 on the high E, 15, 14, 12, 15, 14, 12, 14, 12, 11, 14, 12, 11, my math is bad, sorry, 14, 11. Now you could also do 15, 14, 12, on the low E as well, but just the home base is that A note. So watch when I just play the scale. Oops. So I was doing, you know, a lot of different stuff that I've practiced with that. But what you can do is, besides practicing the scale, and we'll do it from the A string, you want to go, you know, just to practice, middle pinky, and then index middle pinky, index middle pinky, index ring pinky, index ring pinky, and just run that up and down. And then I was just, you know, combining little sequences. But one thing, once you're able to run that scale up and down a little bit, you can go up the scale and then backtrack to one of the notes behind and then go up from there. You don't even have to pick exactly how you're going to do it. But like, for instance, now I'm going to climb up from this note, and then I'll just kind of at some random point go and climb up from the next note up. And no rhyme or reason, I can just start experimenting. And then the same thing going back down. Another one I like, I mean, there's endless possibilities, but I also like knowing, once I know the scale, or once you know the scale pretty well, doing a little like note skipping. For instance, play that one, skip the next one, skip that one, and play the next one. And those are called thirds. And really, man, combining those two ideas, the going up and down and starting at different notes, and then also the skipping, the thirds. Just combining those two alone will give you a lot of really cool ideas. But then also on top of that, if you know some A major pentatonics, you can throw those in there combined with the shape. So just work on the shape a little bit. You know, try it over an A chord chord progression, or works well over like even like the land of A7. And a lot of stuff I was doing was with alternate picking, but then you also want to experiment with the hammer-ons and the pull-offs too. So just mess with that shape, and like I said, even if you don't know anything about the modes or theory, just know that that thing I showed you in this 10 minutes is going to work over a lot of really cool A progressions. Obviously you can plug it in with a different root, but in its most simplest terms, that shape I showed you will work over an A major kind of progression. All right? So good luck with that, and you can always dig deeper. All right, hope that was helpful. I've got the links down there for more if you want to dig deeper. And thanks for hanging out with me for a few, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime real soon. Take care. See you later.